Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Whitty's Gear Reviews. Today what we're going to look at is, I was, I'm a YouTube watcher just like everybody else is, and I just so happened to be on watching a buddy of mine's YouTube channel, and he ended up showing something that I was like, man, you know what, I've been working on a kit like that. It kind of went to the wayside, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back and revisit that because his video prompted me to do that. Big Ben with Big Ben Outdoors, thank you so much for finally getting me to realize that I needed to finish something. I've got a lot of projects, but after watching his video, I was like, man, I've got a kit that I've been working on that could match that kit, right? Guys, I'm going to leave a link in the description over to Big Ben's channel. That dude puts in his time. He does a lot of survival kits. Go over there and check out some of his content. The only way us small YouTubers are gonna make it in this big YouTube world is to support each other. So do me a favor, guys. Go over there, check out some of Big Ben's videos, give him a like, and share them with your friends, and definitely subscribe to his channel. He makes good content, and I wanna make sure he understands it. He prompted me to finish a kit that I'd started taking apart, put back together. That being said, guys, let's jump into it. What my thought process was many months ago was to make a small neck survival kit. One of the big reasons I wanted to do something like this is because, depending whatever situation you're in, typically if you have something around your neck, it's still there. You could lose a bag, you could lose a backpack, falling out of a truck or a four-wheeler or something like that, stumbling down into a ravine, you're hurt, you can't go far, you gotta hunker down. Anything like that, there's a good chance this is still gonna be with you if you wear it right. Of course, this strap is made to tighten, so you can, once you put it over your head, you can tighten it down pretty tight around your neck. And some people that are more claustrophobic, just let enough slack out to where it won't go over your head, where it's too loose. But that's what we got. And this kit's designed that you can take it apart. You can take it off of that, throw it in a cargo pocket. It is still small enough to fit in a front pocket. Little big for a back pocket, but depending on what kind of pants you're wearing, you can put it in a back pocket. I've done it. But let's just go into what we have here. We've already discussed why I made it, but let's go into all the components because there's a lot to talk about. It's not a big kit. You're looking at, this is about the size of like a Maxpedition platy or something. You're looking at 4 inches by 6 inches. Right? Not a lot to it. Just a small little bag with some pockets and some zippers and a little bit of molly on the bottom. But we're going to go into why I chose the things I chose. So this kit, you're looking at a 24 to 36 hour scenario where, for whatever reason, you're waiting for help, you're waiting to be rescued, you're lost in the woods and you're trying to find your way out. This kit is not going to keep you, without any other pre-existing skills, it's not going to keep you out there for weeks, right? This isn't designed for that. It's for those unfortunate events to where, yeah, bad weather blew in. I've got to tough this out for 24 hours. Can I do it with the stuff that's around my neck? And that's what we're going to discuss, and y'all are going to be part of that process. So, let's start with the neck cordage. This plays a big factor. This is 48 inches of a tightened cord type of paracord. And we're going to get into when I say that. So first, you've got an outer sleeve. On the inside, you're going to have, I can get these, it's so hard to work with this stuff. You're going to have 4 strands of nylon cordage. Each one of those strands has 3 braids. So there's 3 individual ropes in one strand. And you got 48 foot of it. or 48 inches of it times 4. You're going to get a piece of this jute twine. You're going to get some copper, which is really hard to see. You're going to get some copper wire or a small game snare wire. You're going to get some cotton rope. You're going to get some fire tinder rope, which this will light even when it's wet. It'll dry out quick. And then you're not probably going to see it, but you're going to get some monofilament fishing line. Put it up against the black. You can see that. That gives you a lot of options just in the neck lanyard alone. Remove those out of the way. But keep in mind, you got 48 inches here. I'm not going to advocate this, guys. I am not an EMT. If you were in a bind and you hurt yourself and you were bleeding out, please study how to do rudimentary tourniquets. That being said, if you have done your due diligence and you know how to do one in a bind, it's no different than using a belt, using a triangle bandage. You can research that and it shows you how to do it. Everything that you would need to do that is in this kit. Keep that in mind. It is something that you could use in an emergency situation, but please do your research to make sure you've done it right. You can make a belt out of it. You can use it to tie stuff up. You can use it to, if you had a pot or you found a Coke can, say for instance this was a Coke can, you could run it through there, cut a V-notch in the top, fill it up with water, hang it over a fire, and now you could boil water. The funny thing is, you'd be surprised. You could be out in the middle of nowhere, and you could find a Dr. Pepper can from the 1990s. Somebody was out there. There's a good chance somebody was out there before you, and they threw their trash down, which I don't advocate throwing your trash down, but in a survival situation, you'd be happy they tossed it that day. But that's just some of the things you could do with just the cordage alone, and we haven't even busted into the rest of the kit yet. So on the outside of this kit, let's go with something that I'm not going to take off right now, and that's just a small compass and a thermometer. Why a thermometer? Because it came with this compass. This was something that I had bought off of Temu or Amazon, like on their Amazon week sale or whatever. I think I spent a couple bucks for it. The compass does work. I've checked it against a good compass and against my cell phone compass. The thermometer, it's pretty close, give or take 2 degrees. In a life or death situation, that 2 degrees might be critical. But if you're just trying to see how much the temperature is dropping from, say, late afternoon to sometime in the night, you can kind of gauge, hey man, the temperature's dropping rapidly. I may need to do something different if the temperature continues to drop like it is. It's a good indication of, it feels colder. Is it colder? If so, what direction do I need to go with the stuff that I have in here? It may prompt you one way or another to do something before you do something else. Okay? And guys, I am not a survival expert, by no means. I took some survival training when I was in the military. I took some survival training when I got out of the military. I was also an industrial firefighter, so I've done first aid, CPR, trauma care, self-care, buddy care, those kind of things. So take what I say with a grain of salt, just like anything. Do your research, put a kit together that suits you for your needs in your area with your climate. I'm in Texas. This may not work in Alaska. This may not work in British Columbia. It may work in Louisiana, may work in Florida, but there's a lot of places that it may not. Keep that in mind. So we talked about the compass. Now we're going to go to this side. We have just a basic flashlight. And this is just a, I guess you can see that. It's a through night saber. Good flashlight, very well built, not going to break very easy, and there's not much to it. Right? Got your low, got your high, that's it. And then you can press the back if you wanted like a strobe or SOS. Doesn't have all those LED lights, doesn't have none of that. It's a quick, simple flashlight. It does have a rechargeable AA battery in there, which you can recharge this light, but I didn't throw one in the bag, but there's plenty of room. I could toss one in there. If you're going to actually take this with you, leave it in your truck, leave it in your car, throw it on your neck before you travel, make sure you got another AA battery in there just in case. Because then once this battery's out, you've got a backup battery to keep your light going. But if you're in the low mode, this light will last for a while. But you're only going to use it when traveling, which typically, if the weather's that bad, you probably don't want to be traveling at night when you can't see. Let's be honest. You're probably going to want to hunker down. Hopefully you told friends, family, somebody where you were going, what time they should expect you to be home, so they know to look for you in 24 to 48 hours. So just a good, solid flashlight that you could trust. Let's get this other stuff off the table so y'all don't think that that's part of the kit. We go to this side, and we just have a standard glow stick with some cordage. So you can hang it around your neck, hang it through it in a tree, use it for a signal device, use it as a buzzsaw effect. If you see some people in the distance, helicopter, vehicles, boats, whatever, you can twirl it around. It makes the area of illumination a lot bigger, and it just makes that contrast that could draw somebody's eye. So you've got, and that's a 6-hour glow stick. You've got that. On this side, which is always a little hard to get out, which I used the carabiner to hook it onto the strap so you didn't lose it, but it is nothing but a whistle. Just a good, high-pitched, high-frequency whistle. So we'll go ahead and you can hear that. It's just a good, solid whistle. Always good to have. Just to make sure, when you're out there, I always tell everybody, man, throw a whistle in any of your kits. Don't rely on them spork whistles because nobody's going to hear you. Most of those things are horrible. Get a good quality whistle. Just because it's good quality doesn't mean it's expensive. That was a Temu find for a couple bucks. Really good, solid whistle. It's got a stainless steel jacket on the outside, and the whistle's, I believe the whistle's aluminum, but it's got like a protective case on it. This kit, guys, there's very little things that are in here that are super expensive. This is a throw it in your car and leave it. The light's a little more than it's not a cheapy throw down, throw away light. You want a good light with you. The next thing we're going to look at, and I'm going to talk about this briefly. Good friend of the channel, he sent this to me, and this is one of the reasons it prompted me to go back and visit this kit because of this knife. Because it is a right exact size, shape, thickness that I needed for this bag. I will show you what I had in the bag before that I took out only because it was narrow. But it was a lot bigger and it was harder to get out. So this is a super narrow knife. This is just a cold steel G3 Puko. I had this in there, or sorry, real steel. I had this in there first, and I took it out, to replace it with this, and I'll show you why. It's a little bit narrower and a lot shorter and super thin. Right. Again, Brent, thank you so much for sending this in. This totally completed the kit. So if you see, this is just the SOG Twitch 2. Good little solid blade made out of Aus-8 steel. It's going to be there. It's got this unique backlock on it, which is good because, I mean, you could still one hand deploy your knife out of there with the top finger flick. Good, solid little knife, well made, small enough, light enough, skinny enough for what I need it to do. We just added a little bit of cordage on back with some glow-in-the-dark beads, because if you notice, everything, a lot of this stuff's black. Well, if you drop it, are you going to find it? You might be able to find it if you have some glow-in-the-dark beads, right? The next thing we have on there is this. Just a small little, this was a small little, I think it was Amazon or Temu, somewhere like that. Just a small little pin. And we'll get into why I put a pin in here in a minute. But super tiny. Lives on the outside. Doesn't take up no space. Well, it takes up space, but not a lot. And you just have a small writing tool with you. So the last thing we have on the outside is the part that's going to help you in inclement weather, right? This is just one of the bigger emergency blankets, Mylar blanket. You've seen these all over. These aren't the super, you can tell it's not the super skinny ones. They're the real thin ones. This one is a little bit thicker material, but it will work in emergency situation. Even if you're not building like a lean-to or an A-frame, which you can do both with this. It's big enough to do that. If you're just hunkering down, you may just want to put it over your head, wrap it around you like you see in the picture, and hunker down, sit there and wait. It would be fine. Lean up against a tree. You'll still be warm. You'll still be somewhat dry. It'll help. But if you do want to take the time and effort and use the resources, you can make a 10, and there's stuff in here to be able to do that if you chose to. Just a Mylar blanket. And that's everything we have on the outside. And then you go to your pocket. Again, some glow-in-the-dark beads, so no matter which way this thing falls, you've got glow-in-the-dark on one side or the other. And there's a lot shoved in this pocket. And this is just a dump pocket, right? Everything fits in there. What I've got is about 4 foot of extra paracord. Because if I've got to use this to survive, I still want to carry my bag. So you have some extra cordage. And if you're able to throw this in a pocket, then you just have extra cordage to tie some sticks together. Make a bow drill, but you probably won't need to. You just have some extra options. Shoestring breaks, you got it covered. The next thing we're going to go over is why I got the pin. We've got 4 sheets of Ride in the Rain notebook paper. Guys, it's important. If you're going to move, if you're in a gully and it's flooding, you're going to have to get out of that gully. But that's the closest point to where you flipped over your 4-wheeler, your Jeep, your truck got stuck in the snow. You're trying to go somewhere to get cover for whatever reason. Leave a note for somebody. Tell them what direction you traveled. Put an arrow. I went this way. Put it under your windshield wiper. Put it on the front seat of your truck. Hang it on a tree. Leave a note. And then also, you could kind of write down what you're seeing. You could draw a map of where you came from and where you're going. That way you could kind of look at that with some landmarks and be able to navigate back if you had to. If the weather came, if you walked off a main road for whatever reason, right? it'll give you a path back as long as you stay on course with your compass and you know which way, where you came from and where you're going, and you have some landmarks marked on both sides. As long as you stay within those landmarks, and if it was on your left side walking in, it's on your right side walking out, right? Just 4 pieces of paper. It doesn't matter if these get wet. You can still write on them. Just something that I prefer to put in there. Writing notes. You know, in a survival situation, depending how bad things get, how badly you're injured, you may want to write something down for somebody you really care about, just in case things don't go your way. It might be nice knowing that you could put some final words down on a piece of paper. I would hate for that to be the outcome of anybody, but it could be to all of us. Sometimes it just helps to be able to write down what you're feeling at the time you're feeling it and hope somebody finds it. All right, moving on. Super small, doesn't take up a lot of space. In the daytime, you can see how much light that catches. You can use that as a signaling device. Of course, now, I don't think the light's going to catch it. Yeah, you can see right there. We can focus a beam, and using the sun, we can start a fire. Super cheap, super lightweight, super slim. Why not? I've got a bunch of them. I threw one in this kit. Then we're going to go to this. This was a find that we got from Deso. If you don't know what Deso is, I've got a couple Deso videos. It's our first Deso video. Go back a couple of weeks, you'll see it. Thing was $2.25, and it's super slim, slimmer than any of the other ones I have. But we're calling it a signal mirror, and it is nothing but a aluminum cased mirror. So that will give you a signal mirror. You could prop it up. You could look if you have something caught in your eye. You know, if you get something in your eye, if you have a wound to your side and you need to see to put a dressing on or whatever, it's good to have a mirror. But in this kit, it's our signaling device. Now, I was going to do a couple things before the video. This will catch, even though it's like satin, it will catch light. I wouldn't call it a signaling device, but it will catch light. But not as much as the mirror will, so might as well just open the thing and use the mirror to catch light. But if you wanted to, seeing that we have the neck strap with some fishing line, you could put a couple of small little fishing hooks in there because there's enough room for that when you close that lid. If you wanted to, and then you could put several layers, several strips of duct tape or Gorilla Tape. Just put layer after layer after layer, about 4 layers on top of each other, and then you have some cordage. I would alternate. What I do is I'll usually put 3 layers of black, 1 layer of orange, then another layer of black. That way, if you wanted to, you could, depending on what you want, you could leave the orange on the outer layer. I usually keep the orange protected because the way I look at it is if I really need the orange, I would much rather have something over top of it to protect it. So I'll just put a cover layer on top of that. And you could put that on the outside. Dog's barking at the mailman. But you could put that on either side that you wanted or both sides. Matter of fact, you could put 4 strips of Gorilla Tape black and 4 strips of the orange for making like a signal string or signal rope or signal streamer, anything like that. So you got a light in there. And we're getting almost to the end here, guys. We got 14 foot of nylon rope. This stuff's pretty high strength. I think it's 150 pound test. But if you wanted to make a tent, an A-frame, you could use this for a ridge line. You could use this to tie around the corners if you can find a rock. crumple up the corner. Let's show you with something here. So basically, if this was a corner, right? Throw your rock in there, tie some string around it, and now it's not going to pull through. You can do that to all four corners. Tie it down with some stick stakes, which you can make with your knife. This isn't going to build you a shelter, guys, but it will aid in making a shelter with some of the stuff you have here. You can cut tent stakes with Haas 8 all day long. You can make a splint if you needed to with a knife that size. But just some cordage, extra cordage. It's not going to hurt nothing. And you may beat me up. You may say, oh man, that ain't enough, blah, 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 blah. Depends what happens to you. They're thin, they're lightweight, they don't take up a lot of space. And yes, there's alcohol pads in here. You never know what happens. I've got two of the his butterfly closures, 4 alcohol pads, and keep in mind, guys, you can burn these. They're not just for wiping bobos. And then 4 large side bandages. Just a small, simple little first aid kit. Doesn't take up a lot of space. And it's, it's in here if you need it. And it, like I said, guys, it's not very thick. I mean, it's no thicker than the paper. No, super thin. Doesn't take up a lot of room. Why not? I had extra space, so I put it in there. And the last 2 things we're going to talk about are the critical things, right? We're looking at 24 to 36 hours. You're going to need water before you need food. And if it's cold weather or if you're trying to make a signal fire, trying to keep bugs down, even though it may be summertime, hot as crap wherever you're at, that usually means mosquitoes are out, some kind of biting flies, gnats, whatever, are going to be out. If you could start a fire, you could thin those out tremendously, and it'll make just hunkering down and life a little bit easier. So you got to have some way to start a fire. This is not a complete fire kit, guys. This is an emergency fire kit with things that I know work. And all you have is 2 go fires, which will light if they're wet. You just light the pack, let it go. It'll stay lit plenty long enough to put some kindling on there and start a fire. You got a slim Bic lighter, which is the real thin ones. And then you've got 6 of the Strike Anywhere waterproof flare type matches. The rule of thumb is, guys, if you're able to start a fire once and you're able to maintain said fire, you should only use one of these. You don't even need a whole one of these if you have a lot of dry kindling. Now, if it's wet, it's pouring down, it's storming, yes, you're going to have to struggle to get your fire made. Having 2 may not work for you depending on what kind of situation you're in. So I would advise you to find the driest kindling you could find, tinder. You may have to use your alcohol pads. You may have to use some of your fire twine. You may have to use a combination of all these things to get your fire lit. But this just gives you enough opportunity to do that if your conditions are right. And that's it as far as the pack. And then the last thing we have is your water. Got to have water. Got to be able to find water. If you can find water, you're in good shape. And this isn't, it had to be slim to fit in there. So that's 6 water purification tablets, which each one will do a liter of water. So if you do the math, this is a 1 gallon heavy duty freezer bag. If you fill it up all the way, you're going to need 3 of these. Right? It's hard to judge a liter. I could have put a liter size bag in here, but my thought process is if I'm hurt and I'm able to collect water, I don't want to have to keep going back. I've got a gallon of water, not quite a gallon, but you've got water in this bag that you can hang on to. And you're not going to need, hopefully you won't need to be going back to a water source if you're hurt and you're trying to hunker down. And the last thing we have in here is 12-inch by 18 inches of tinfoil. Heavy-duty tinfoil. Not the real cheap stuff that tears. It's heavy-duty tinfoil, and I'm going to tell you why. If you need to boil something for whatever reason, there is nothing in this kit to do that with. If you found one of these and you can hang it in a tree, man, you're golden. If you don't have one of those, this tinfoil you can make a bowl out of. It ain't going to last forever. Boil your water in that, transfer it over to your bag. If for whatever reason you run out of your tabs there, this is enough to do 2 gallons. If you run out of that, you can still boil water. But better yet, you can make a windbreak. If the wind's blowing real bad, you can unfold this thing and make a windbreak while you're trying to start your fire. Right? This is a big piece of tinfoil. I'm not going to totally unfold it because it took me forever to get it this flat. This is for an emergency situation. But you can make a windbreak. You can signal with that. There's a bunch of stuff you could do with tinfoil. You can set it on the ground so you're not putting your dead standing tinder that you just found that's somewhat dry onto the wet ground. Use this as a base. Build your fire, your initial fire on top of it, then transfer it to somewhere once you have a good established fire. Like I said, you can make a cup, a plate. There's a lot of different things you could do with tinfoil. Just having some in here, in my opinion, is important to this kit. I just stuck it with your water because you could also use it to make like I said, a cup. But then go down the rabbit hole. Google what you can make out of tinfoil. Take some notes, write them down, and you can make shoes with tinfoil. There's all kind of things you make with tinfoil. So, anyways, but it's in there for survival use. Always plan, guys. Pre-plan, read. I've got several survival books, and it's funny because I'll pick up little pieces from each book that I'm like, man, if this goes with this would be ideal. Do your research. If you're going to spend a lot of time in the woods, if you're going to go in the areas where there's not overly populated or remote, make sure you know what you're doing. Do some research, guys. Do some research. And even some of the most skilled people, sometimes the conditions are just too bad and they don't make it home. But at least this gives you a fighting chance. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Remember, it's this big. It's going around your neck. I can't put all the fancy stuff that I would like to in there. I'd like to put a multi-tool in there. I'd like to put a saw. There's all kinds of things you can do. I will add this, just now that I'm thinking about it. It's just a survival hatchet. Watch these on YouTube. I was actually surprised. I watched a couple videos of some people actually using this. You just get you a stick, split it. You can split it with this end and hit it with that same stick or another stick to split a piece of wood. You shove it in there. You use some of your cordage to lash around it. And you could actually make a shelter with that thing. And you can see I've used it. It will cut through wood. I was actually surprised. It is thick stainless steel. It's not like them little flimsy. You're not going to bend that. That is not going to bend. Pressing as hard as I can. It's not going to flex. Throw one of those in this. I just happened to have it on this table because I was actually going to do a review on it. And if you want to go fishing, now you got a spearhead. That goes in here as well. Now I kind of just told on myself on something I was about to do a review on. But if you're going to make this a tomahawk, flip this thing around to the back, put it between your piece of wood, and now you've got a spike on the end. Look that up, guys. Look at some videos. I'm going to do one, but there are a bunch of videos on this exact tool. Super affordable and would probably be ideal for this kit. All right, guys. That's all we've got, man. Tell me your thoughts. Yay, nay. Would it work for you? Everybody would like to have a backpack full of crap. A tent, heater, stove. Yeah, but most likely you're not going to have that. Unless you're going hiking and camping, then you'll have your gear. But for whatever reason, let's say you're kayaking and man, you didn't think about it. You're moving from one spot to the other. You didn't tie your bag down. Boom, out goes your bag. You go out the other way. Your oar, your kayak goes downstream, and now you got to swim to shore. If your head didn't fall off, you still have this. You may be able to take this and go find your main bag and the rest of the stuff further downstream, but you may have to hunker down for a night to do it. Will this get you there? Will this get you out? Anyways, guys, do me a favor. There's still 3 ways to support the channel. There's Whitty's Gear, Buy Me a Coffee, memberships. If you want to help out, that's a way to do it. Please like, share, subscribe, click all those notifications. Give us that thumbs up. Love y'all. See you on the next one.